Welcome to Professor Ortlieb's Bluebook podcast, a series of podcasts designed to teach 1L students the basics of legal citation using the Bluebook. In the last episode, we learned how to complete our basic case citation format by adding the court name, jurisdiction, and date of decision to the case name and reporter information. In this episode, we will explore some of the Bluebook's rules for forming and abbreviating case names. We will look at rules 10.2.1c, 10.2.1d, and 10.2.1h. We will also take a look at Rule 10.2.2 and Bluebook tables T6 and T10. You'll want to have your copy of the Bluebook in front of you as you watch this podcast. After watching this podcast, you should be able to complete homework number 3. When we introduced the Bluebook to you in Lesson 1, we briefly discussed the difference between a citation used in a textual sentence versus a citation in a citation sentence. We learned that when writing memos or court documents, it didn't matter whether the cite was in a textual sentence or citation sentence. We must underline or italicize our case name. But when it comes to forming and abbreviating the words in our case names, the location of the cite will dictate which pieces of the case names must be altered. So what is a citation in a textual sentence? It simply means that you've placed the cite in the middle of your prose. Look at this example. In this sentence, the writer has placed the citation for Peachin v. Dynapro in the middle of his sentence about the case's holding. This placement makes this a citation in a textual sentence. Although there may be times when placing your cite within your textual sentences, you'll need to do that. Please avoid doing so when possible. Cites in the middle of your sentences make the sentences more difficult for your reader to read and process what you're trying to say. In general, when forming a case name for your cites, you'll want to use the name that appears at the beginning of the opinion or in the caption. You want to keep the first full word of each party's name, but this doesn't apply to individuals. We must omit given names or initials of individuals and use only the surname. Occasionally, you'll have a case with a very long or cumbersome name. When you do, you should omit any words that are not necessary to identify the parties or case. Where the case or opinion does not have a clear name, use a popular case name or simply judgment of and insert the date. These general rules are further modified by the remainder of Rule 10.2.1. So let's take a look at Rule 10.2.1c. 10.2.1c tells us to abbreviate two categories of words. First, abbreviate widely known acronyms. This applies to any organization or entity that is better known or equally known by its letters rather than full name. Some examples include the FBI, CIA, NAACP, IBM, and 3M. These abbreviated names do not contain any spaces or periods between the capital letters used to form them. Second, abbreviate what I call the Big Eight. They are words commonly associated with business names. They include and, association, brothers, company, corporation, incorporated, limited, and number. Here, I've given you the list as they're abbreviated according to the Bluebook. There is an exception to the Big Eight, and that is, you shouldn't abbreviate any of the Big Eight if they begin a party's name. You may still abbreviate widely known acronyms, though. So in that first example you see here, we will keep the acronym for the NAACP. In the second example here, the first party's name begins with one of the Big Eight, number. Because this is a cite in a textual sentence, we will not abbreviate number to NO period. Ten 10.2.1d presents the issue. In general, we're going to cut the from a party's name, except under 3 circumstances. Where the is part of the object's name in an in rem action, as here. We will also retain the for cases involving the king or the queen. You will also retain the where it is part of the popular name. Even in a textual sentence, though, we will eliminate the from a case name. (10.2.1h) governs duplicate business designations in a case name. Under this rule, if your name contains a term such as association, brothers, company, corporation, or railroad, you should eliminate the second business designation, such as limited, incorporated, LLC, NA, or FSB. This rule is to be read narrowly, though. You want to eliminate the second business designation only where the business couldn't be mistaken for another entity. When in doubt, include the second designation. Here's an example. In the first case name, we see that the party name includes both company and incorporated. Looking back at 10.2.1h, we see that both incorporated and company are specifically listed in the rule as duplicate business designations that will allow us to eliminate the second designation. Therefore, the case name becomes Number 1 Little Blue Engine Company, cutting out the incorporated you see in the first example. Now let's contrast the rules for a case name in a textual sentence with a case name in a citation sentence. What is a case name and a citation? Well, let's take a look at this example using the Peachin case that we saw earlier. Here, the author placed the full case name and cite outside of her prose in a separate citation sentence. So if you're placing cites in a separate sentence outside of your prose, you'll follow these rules for abbreviating your case names. Again, remember that this is the preferred placement of your cites because it will help you write more clearly and help your reader better focus on your thoughts rather than focusing on the interruptions from the citations. So, what do we abbreviate in a case name when that name is in a citation sentence? In short, everything. First, you're going to abbreviate everything you would abbreviate in a textual sentence cite. You're going to follow all the modifications of 10.2.1. But you're also going to abbreviate any word in T6. As a new legal writer, you will need to refer back to this table frequently, checking each word in your case name against the list of words here. You'll want to tab this page for your future reference. Now let's take a look at the opening paragraph to T6. To form the plural of any term listed in T6, you'll need to add an S to the abbreviation, unless T6 already provides for the plural. For example, look at the entry for correction. It contains an S and an AL in brackets after correction. This means that correction, corrections, and correctional all have the same abbreviation, CORR, period. Now take a look at the entry for academy. It does not have a plural listed. If your case name contained the term academies, your abbreviation would have to be ACADS, period. When forming your abbreviations under T6, pay close attention to the punctuation within and ending each abbreviation. Note that not every abbreviation will end in a period. Some abbreviations contain the last letter of the word and eliminate the letters in the middle. Therefore, they have an apostrophe rather than a period at the end. In addition to abbreviating any word in T6, you may abbreviate any word of 8 letters or more if you save substantial space and the result is unambiguous. Attorney may become ATT''Y. You'll also want to abbreviate any geographic location listed in T10, unless that geographic location is the entire name of the party. You should remember T10 from our last Blue Book lesson. T10 contains the abbreviations for U.S. states, cities, and territories. It also contains the abbreviations for foreign countries, territories, and cities. Remember, the abbreviation for states under Bluebook may or may not be the same as the state's postal code. Refer to T10 for the correct abbreviation. When the United States is an entire name of a party, you can eliminate of America, but you cannot abbreviate United States to U.S. Let's take a look at an example from earlier. Your case name in the caption is the number 1 Little Blue Engine Company Incorporated v. Thomas. Under 10.2.1h, which also applies to citation sentences, we know we can eliminate the incorporated because the first party's name includes company. But unlike in our earlier textual sentence example, we can also abbreviate number to NO period, even though it begins the party's name. Therefore, if this case were to appear in a citation sentence rather than a textual sentence, it would look like the third example here. Let's do some exercises to reinforce the case name rules we've gone over in this lesson. For the following 2 problems, generate the case name as you would use it in both a textual sentence and a citation sentence. You will want to pause this podcast while you work on your answers. Once you think you've got the right answer, continue this lesson to check your work and get explanations for the answers. Let's look at the first case. Mary T. Akuchuk v. the United States of America as cited in a textual sentence. The case name should become Akuchuk v. United States. Where did I get that answer from? First, remember that we eliminate given names and initials for private citizens. Therefore, we cut Mary T. The other party is the United States of America. We know that from 10.2.1 we cut the as well as of America, leaving us simply with United States. Now let's look at that case as cited in a citation sentence. The answer is the same. Under 10.2.2, we abbreviate anything that could be abbreviated under 10.2.1. So let's start our cite from that point and ask if anything else may be abbreviated. Akuchuk is a surname and not a word that is susceptible to further abbreviation under T6. United States is a geographic location, but it can't be abbreviated further because it is the entire name of the party Akuchuk is suing. Therefore, no additional changes can be made to the case name when we use it in a citation sentence in this example. Let's look at the answers for the second problem, starting with the answer for the case name in a textual sentence. The first party listed is Union Pacific Railroad Company. That will become Union Pacific Railroad. We can cut company from the case name because it is the second business designation in the party's name. Rule 10.2.1h specifically mentions railroad as one of the business designations that allow us to eliminate any additional business designations for that party. We don't abbreviate railroad, however, because it is not one of the big 8 listed in 10.2.1c. So, in your citation for a textual sentence, the first party listed should be Union Pacific Railroad, all written out. The second party listed is Lloyd's of Oklahoma City. It does not contain the, any of the big 8, or a duplicate business designation. Therefore, the party name cannot be abbreviated under 10.2.1. The complete answer is Union Pacific Railroad v. Lloyd's of Oklahoma City, with no words abbreviated. Now let's look at that case name in a citation sentence. First, you should have started with your answer for the case name in the textual sentence, as 10.2.2 requires us to abbreviate anything listed in 10.2.1. From there, we can further abbreviate the case name. Starting with the first party, we have Union Pacific Railroad. I know I'm now going to need to look up each and every word in this party's name in T6. Pacific is listed, and it will become PAC period. Railroad is likewise listed and becomes R period R period. Therefore, the first party is Union Pac RR. Remember our spacing rules from last week. Close up adjacent capitals, but put a space before and after a longer abbreviation. Therefore, you need a space between the Pac period and R period R period, indicated by the hashtags here. The abbreviation for the other party requires you to look at Table T10 because it contains a geographic location in the name. Oklahoma City is not one of the cities specifically listed under cities. But T10 tells us that we should also abbreviate city names by using state abbreviations where appropriate. Oklahoma City, in fact, is the example given in the introduction to this part of the table. Therefore, Oklahoma City becomes OKLA period space city. You've now completed Bluebook lesson number 3 and are ready to start on your homework. If you have any questions about this lesson, please see me or a teaching assistant.